Hi, and welcome back to Food Farms and Chefs. And I'm very, very happy to introduce all of you to one of the farmers that is joining us. His name is Nate Layton, and he owns Hershberger Heritage Farms, and they have a like delivery to your home box for fresh farm goods, Berger Box. So, Nate, thank you, and welcome to Food Farms and Chefs.
Yes, thank you for having me. Yes, Hershberger Heritage Farms, the name of my farm. I started it about 10 years ago. I was tired of sitting behind my corporate job desk and started looking for pasture raised certified organic meat that I raise now, and I couldn't find it. And eventually got down such a deep rabbit hole where I just decided to start my own farm, jump in with both feet, cashed out for my corporate job, and just did it.
And I mean, you're kind of like condensing everything down really into a quick synopsis of how you got started. But I know that you
Totally.
grew up like on a farm, like I think of your grandfather's farm.
Yes, that's true. My grandfather owned an 800-acre dairy farm. I wasn't involved really with the farming, but I was just around it, growing up. And I guess you could say that it's in my blood. So, after leaving home at 18, I joined the Air Force, and shortly after I joined the Air Force, actually while I was in basic training, 9/11 happened. So, it went from like peacetime to immediate wartime, and then my life kind of changed from there. Went to war several times and served this country all over. I was stationed all over the world. And after getting out of the military after 8 years, I got a corporate job in Princeton, New Jersey, working for a government contractor, kind of just, building on the knowledge that I had gained in the military, and was able to spin that into a lucrative job there. And after, like I said, after doing that for so long, I just got tired of sitting behind a desk and having my boss tell me what to do every day. And I was ready to be my own boss. So I cashed out and started Hirschberger.
One of the things that I really love about your farm, and I've actually been out there before I know the area, I'm really very close to where you're at, is that you have a wide range of products, everything from pasture raised eggs to some amazing pasture raised chickens, which are simply amazing and delicious. But you have, in addition to pastured pork as well, you have this incredible selection of 100% grass fed beef. And your butcher's cuts everywhere down from, a brisket to a flat iron, down to sirloins and skirts. You really keep an amazing selection of products on there. Do you
Yep.
have a background in butchering, or do you have an in-house butcher that you use, or how do you really manage to keep such an inventory of all those great products?
Yeah, well, I guess that comes from my corporate experience, learning to manage people, managing a large team of people. I knew when I started my own business, I would have to find the experts in said fields, whether it be butchery or whatever. And I found the best butcher that I could find, which is Nello's Specialty Meats up in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. And he is the absolute expert at butchering animals. So I gave him the instruction to please, cut every single cut out of the animal. I don't want anything passed over. I want the least amount of ground beef out of every cow as possible. So if there's any cut that you normally don't cut because people don't like it, I don't care about that. I want you to cut it and package it. Uh, so that's kind of where the large amount of cuts comes from, is because I asked for that, and we try to keep the largest amount of cuts in stock, for that reason.
Well, and you do things too. I mean, that you don't often see. I mean, you do oxtail, and you can get a marrow bone, which is absolutely phenomenal. For those who want to make ossobuco or do a beef variation of that.
Right.
Um, but you also do, a cross rib roast, which is a little bit different than most people see. So there's some very unique things that you do in that. Do you also, I know a lot of farms in the area are starting to do that, have the ability for people to buy a young animal and, pay for it early on, and then, so much, 6 months down the road, purchase that entire animal and whole for their freezer.
Yeah, that's not a program that we offer. We do offer eighths and quarters and wholes throughout the year, typically in the summer. when things
Right.
are going. But no, we don't typically let people put a deposit down on a specific animal. But
Okay. And do you get a lot of requests for the holes in the eighths and the quarters?
yes, a lot of requests. And we get so many that I have to turn people down because I can't sell them all by the hole in the quarter because I need them in my store and I need them for my home delivery service, Berger Box. We're now shipping all the way to Maine, west to Michigan, south to North Carolina, Tennessee, even. So we're covering that entire area with shipping via UPS.
Well, and in addition to that is, I talked about your beef products because that's what everybody's going to always kind of lean towards immediately. But the fact that you guys make your own sausage there as well is a wonderful thing. And you have sliced bacon, but you also have chunk bacon. So you have two really great, unique products for the cooks who really like to experiment. I love finding local sausage. That's something I just strive to find. And when I can find chunk bacon that I could cook with and do things like that. And fortunately here in your property and other farms in Bucks County, you can often find products like that. But you really from somebody who came out of, you know, not necessarily the background of farming and retail food, really hit it on the nose with the selection of products you have.
Yeah, I mean, I set out on a mission. I knew the type of food and the type of cuts that I was looking for when I couldn't find it in the store myself. And I didn't want other people to have to go through that same struggle. I wanted everybody to be able to find the good stuff if they were looking for it. And, that's also in Danilo. Again, he makes all of our sausage. So we say we want pepper and onion, we want country style, we want hot Italian, sweet Italian, Unger's German pork sausage. We have so many different varieties, and that's a lot to do with his expertise in the butcher industry.
Yeah, I have to ask because it is the cold season and obviously like when the comes on, everybody it's soup season. Do you also because I've made bone broth before. It's actually like one of the nutrient rich broths that you can create. Since you are butchering on site and or have butchers that do that for you, are you saving those bones and also, offering those in store or package deals in any way, shape,
Yep.
or form?
Yeah, we do beef bones. We often sell them by the 50-pound box to restaurants, or sometimes we sell them to the local people that just stop in. But most people, I feel like the average customer is not really looking for beef bones. Um, but chicken bones, yes, and we also make our own chicken broth. So we do make chicken broth and usually have it in stock throughout the year.
And just out of curiosity, because there are some animals that are a little harder to come by, and are very tedious to debone, like rabbit. Um, would you ever consider doing that, or is that something if somebody asked you to purchase rabbit meat to create something or a restaurant, would you be
Yeah, I
willing
don't
to?
I don't know anything about rabbit. I've had people ask that before and ask for duck or goose, but that's a whole nother thing. Even though a goose and duck is poultry, their feathers are attached to them with, I don't know what they're like, super glue. They're impossible to get off. So you have to have very special machinery and techniques to remove the feathers of those waterfowl. And it's like I said, it's a whole nother operation, and we're just not set up for that.
Gotcha. And I mean, I feel like Gene is very familiar with you guys, so I'm gonna maybe quiet down a little bit and let him retake over the interview just because I mean, I was excited to have you on because obviously you have the CSA and you have the ability to have, your meats delivered to your door.
Right.
So I'm excited for that. But Gene, what other, aspects of the CSA and farming world do you have questions about?
Well, I mean, I just love that in Bucks County, we're really starting to, and this area, we're starting to really showcase our amazing, meat production. And one of the things that I was just drawn for right off the bat was that you have, your pasture eggs, and
Hmm.
I don't know about anybody else. Amherst, I'm assuming you've had fresh eggs before.
Yes.
Fresh eggs are a whole unique dining experience for breakfast. I can tell you, we get some here. We have a good friend of ours that raises chickens, and we, you know, are lucky enough to get some eggs from her on a regular basis. And even our dog notices the difference
Yeah.
of a fresh egg. You know, and I mean, so in defense, we do cook all our dogs' meals. We do the fresh food and things like that, and we make all the dog meals here. But even the dog notices the difference on a fresh egg. So you know, the fact that you have the pasture, you know, the eggs there, the cage free kind of thing. What a
Hmm.
wonderful opportunity to go up and get some really great products. And I saw your price list earlier in the day. What an amazing, reasonable price. And people who don't, if you've never had fresh eggs, go and try it. And you might look and say, well, I can get them in the supermarket for less. It's not even close. Don't even bother doing that.
Yeah,
Where did
and I do wholesale my eggs to a few grocery stores locally. Kimberton Whole Foods, if you've ever heard of them, they
yes,
have a few local stores. We wholesale our eggs to them when we have an excess.
where does your I mean, obviously you have it in your genetics with dairy farming and all, but what was the hardest obstacles for you when you got into farming?
I would say infrastructure. Everything that we have here at Hershberger, we built. My business partner Patrick and I built with our own two hands. The chicken tractors that we raise our broiler chickens in, our hoop houses that we constructed ourselves and designed ourselves. I mean, I haven't seen. I know there's other similar options out there, but we came up with our own design that fit the fields that we have, the way that the fields are laid out, and the changes in elevation that we have to deal with, and so on. It's not our farm is not really flat. It's kind of on top of a ridge. So the front fields next to the road are somewhat flat, but all the other fields kind of slope away. And we had to kind of take that into account when building that infrastructure. The chicken tractors that we built are 40 feet long and 15 feet wide, and you can fit up to 400 chickens in each one. And then
Wow.
those chicken tractors move down the field one length of themselves every day. So we drag them with the tractor.
Yep,
They're
yep.
open. They're open to the grass, right? The chickens walk inside. We drag it very slowly, and the chickens just walk inside to the next spot.
Huh.
And one day worth of rest where those chickens are for the entire day, they put down enough manure to fertilize that swath of ground for the entire year. So that's how we fertilize the entire field. That's another one of the things we stand behind here at Hershbergers. We don't buy inputs. We don't buy fertilizer. We don't buy pesticides. We don't buy herbicides. We don't put any of that down. We let the animals do the work for us. And the same
Yeah.
same with the pigs. We have a whole field dedicated to pigs, and the pigs do the same thing. They're divided into a long paddock. The pigs are in there. They root everything up. They tear the field completely up, and they spread their manure for us, right? And then we move them down to the next paddock down the field while the one they were just in rests, and we disc it with the tractor, and then we plant grass again in it. And then by the time they make it back to the top of that field, it's ready to go again. So we can run the pigs back in there, and then the cycle just keeps repeating itself.
I'm sorry. I'm for those who are listening. I'm over here nodding my head because that's innovative and conducive to staying organic and to staying fresh. Now that being said, like, do you have that stamp of approval that goes along with FDA
Uh,
certification?
so yes, we were certified organic for many years, and unfortunately for me, the organic certification kind of lost its value to me. I feel like that certification, it's been commercialized, it's been I don't want to say abused, but everybody's certified organic now, even the big industrial farms, right? And then something that happened to me at my farm personally is, so if you don't know how it works, see, if you're going to be certified in Pennsylvania, certified organic, that is, you hire a third party. The government doesn't come out and certify you. So you hire a third party certifier. They come out and they certify your farm, and then you can be certified organic, right? And that costs money. You have to pay for that, and it's a portion of your organic revenue. So if whatever organic products you sell, they then take a percentage of that at the end of the year. And after 4 or 5 years of being certified, all was going well. And then one year the certifier didn't come. Nobody came, but the bill came. So I thought that was weird, but I paid the bill and we continued on farming, just doing our thing. And then the next year, the same thing happened. No certifier came and the bill came. And I started thinking, I'm like, well, why, what am I paying for here? If the certifier isn't even come to check my farm, are they checking the other farms around? Are they checking,
Yeah.
to see if anybody is actually certified or actually practicing? And then it kind of hit me that, that third party certifier is a business. They're just trying to make money. They don't care if you're certified or not.
Mm,
So after I realized that, I dropped the certification voluntarily. We didn't change any of our practices, of course. We still operate the same exact way. I just don't display that certified organic stamp on my products.
gotcha. Now we have a few minutes left on the show, but I I had asked Jean to ask you, but I suppose I should just ask you myself. You had faced a couple of storms that set you back. Have you been able to bounce back from the storms?
Yes, almost. We are almost bounced back. Yes. So yeah, in the late summer, early fall, there were 5 to 6 weeks or so where it rained every Saturday, and we depend on farmers markets to generate the majority of our revenue for the farm. And let's say we were down 80% over the course of 6 weeks, which is a lot of money. A vast amount of revenue. And when it came to the end of the year, we met with the accountant, and he's like, "Guys, you're losing $60,000 this year."
Oh,
And we're
wow.
like, "Whoa!" And we need about $60,000 to $100,000 to spin the farm up in the spring, to buy all the animals, to buy all the feed, to rehab the chicken tractors, to fix stuff, and so on. And I didn't know what we were going to do. I thought we were going to go out of business, to be honest. And
Mm.
then I talked about it on my Instagram, on Hershberger Heritage Farms Instagram, and that post went somewhat viral. I think like 80,000 plus people saw it, and then the orders for Berger Box, my home delivery service, just started rolling in. And I've been chasing my tail ever since. We've been getting orders day after day after day after day since then. So yes, we've almost made back the lost revenue. I'm not sure what's going to happen in 2024 yet. Like, we're off to a good start, obviously. Like, we have a long way to go. But yes, we did kind of recover from that loss, which is definitely a good thing.
It is a good thing. Now, for our listeners out there, for anybody that wants to get as excited about your burger box and, or visit you guys in person, where can they find you online? Where can they find your address? What are your hours that you work?
Yep. Well, you can find us on Instagram, Hershberger Heritage Farm, just like spelled just like it sounds. The website is bergerbox.farm, BERGER box.farm. And we have a farm store, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 6. And that's at our address listed on Google. You can easily Google the farm and see the address there.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Food Farms and Chefs, Nate.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You.
Thanks, Gene.
All right. And we will be right back after this short break. Hi, and welcome back to Food Farms and Chefs. And I am very happy to introduce all of you to JT, who is the owner of Village Vine Wine Bar and Bistro in Swarthmore. JT, welcome to Food Farms and Chefs.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Now, you definitely have quite the history. I believe I don't know if I've had you on before. I don't think I have, but I have had I believe somebody on from your your past history on the show, but you were the former owner of Roots
Yep.
Cafe, and you co-own actually a bridal shop with your wife, which
Yeah.
is very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a picture floating around of me in a wedding dress as
Oh, I didn't come across
marketing.
that. Now I'm gonna
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm gonna have to go
Like,
look for that.
oh, it's there. It's awful.
Yeah. And you're also starting up a Delco Dudes hot sauce as well
Yep.
line. So anyway, being that you're clearly super lazy and not doing anything with your life.
Yeah. I had a little bit of time around. I was like, you know what? Got to fill that time somehow.
Yeah, exactly. So, you recently purchased or took over ownership of the Village Vine Wine Bar and Bistro. It's a mouthful, but it's there.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a little heavy.
it's a little heavy, but it's what was like, first off, congratulations,
Thank you.
since it is somewhat new. Secondly, like what brought you to that location and how did that come onto your radar?
Yeah, so I was actually looking to. So Dan and I owned Roots together for about 5.5 years, and Dan still my best friend, love him to death. It was completely amicable, and we kind of just got to the point where it was like Roots is, we've brought it as far as we can together, and I wanted to do something independently myself, and I was like, look, I think it's just kind of time that we pull the trigger on this. So while that was finishing up, I was actually looking at two different spaces. One of them was in Westchester, and it was called Peter Clark Kitchen, and the other one was Village Vine in Swarthmore. And excuse me, I originally just kind of didn't even consider Village Vine. It's about a half an hour from Roots, and it's actually where I grew up. I grew up in Drexel Hill, so it's completely in my old stomping grounds. But for some reason, just in the back of my head, it was like, no, it's not really. When I looked at the original pictures, I was like, oh, it's a really cool spot, but I'm not really into the artwork as much as the previous owners were. So I was like, it's a cool spot, but I think I'm going to end up with the location in Westchester. So we actually ended up being, coming under an agreement with the spot in Westchester. And something in the back of my head was like, before you make this final decision, it's a big deal. At least do your due diligence and go see the place, right? So one night I actually drove down and I reached out to Jill. I was like, hey, I'm just coming down to see the restaurant just before I make the final decision, because it was actually, everything was like on a pretty heavy deadline, with root sale finalizing, the space in Westchester, he wanted to be out in like 2 weeks. So it was like game time. We had to make a decision that night, basically. And I pull up into this like sleepy, beautiful little town that looks exactly like you would imagine a Christmas village looking and it was like, holy crap, this is like a prime location. And then I walk up to Village Vine and I, open this door, and there's this just gorgeous little quaint restaurant that the two women that owned it did a great job with setting it up. Especially, they didn't have any restaurant experience. They've never worked in a restaurant. They never owned a restaurant. They never bartended. They never served. They never did anything.
They were
Like
attorneys.
they were attorneys, right? So I mean, this was like a passion project for them. So to be able to build it, and do the kitchen layout the way they did was like pretty cool. And there was just something about it that as soon as I walked through the door, it was like, this is the spot. This is what I want to do.
One of the unique things about that area too, you described the business right to a T. My daughters live there. I know the area quite well. But you had to come in too and hit the ground dead solid and running, because
Yeah,
Swarthmore is one of them extremely unforgiving areas.
you are not kidding.
It is it's uh, they're very critical of anything. You came in as an outsider with a business that was established, so that was gonna draw some looks, I'm sure, coming in, and you were able to, in a short amount of time, win them over. So what were some of the obstacles in the very beginning that you had to overcome?
Well, I'll tell you what, I was absolutely terrified that everybody was going to hate my vision for Village Vine. So, the restaurant was awesome, and it had its own personality to it. When I walked in, it was like, you can tell they seriously care about art, they seriously care about wine, and they care about community. And what I wanted to do was I had to make it mine. That was one of the most important things to me. This has to be a place that I can stand behind. I can put my name behind it. I like to think I have a pretty good reputation as a chef, as a person. So it was something that it was really important to me to put my own stamp on it. And to do that was going to require a pretty drastic change from what it was. From, like I said, if you look at pictures from the previous Village Vine, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of pieces of artwork on the walls that were just, it filled up every single blank space that you could possibly find. And it was cool. But to me, it's always going to be about the food and the drinks, right? So I wanted to kind of tone down the decor a little bit and hyper focus on the food, the drinks, the cocktail, the wine, and really make that the center of attention. Because when you would speak to most people about Village Vine, they would say, it's almost like a restaurant, wine bar / art museum. Yeah. And which is cool, but for me, I don't know anything about art. I don't know what makes art super special. I can tell you, like, I have some artwork on the walls in my house that it's cool. I like it. I don't know who made it. I don't know anything about it. But for me, the biggest fear that I had was when I did this change and just painted and put a fresh face onto it, that people, like you said, were just going to totally revolt against me and say, like, you ruined this, restaurant that we, really liked for 3 years. And, what did you do? So my focus was always like, no matter what, put out good food, put out good drinks, make the best food you can, make the best cocktails you can, have a great wine list that's all encompassing, where the wino can come in and find something really cool and unique. And then you can also come in and just have a really good Chardonnay if you wanted to. And then obviously being a chef, the food was my immediate focus. And I was a little, nervous that people didn't, they weren't going to respond to the type of food that I like to make. And, so the biggest obstacle was the decor and is this community going to respond to the food that I like to make? And luckily enough, when people walked in, they were like, we love it. So I was like, oh, thank God. That was opening day. We opened up, I think we closed for 3 days, and my wife and I were in there every day, and we had family come in and friends come in, and everybody was painting, and it was like a mad dash at the end, because I was like, no matter what, we are going to open on the Wednesday after the deal is closed. We just have to hit the ground running. We have to be strong. And one thing that Village Vine was struggling with before was they had a very hard time finding a chef that could put out the food quickly, consistently, even show up. Sometimes they had their chef that just didn't show up on a Saturday night and they had to close the doors. So I didn't want it to get that reputation, especially first out of the gate, that the restaurant's going to have inconsistent hours. So that was like, we're getting open no matter what. So like the last 5 minutes, we're like detailing every little, thing we could possibly find and saying like, okay, is that it? All right, light the candles, open the door, and people were starting to come in. So it was cool, but everybody really liked the decor.
Yeah, it is such a. I love how you describe it as kind of a little Christmas village for people who have not been to Swarthmore. It is kind of a sleepy little hamlet off of some major busy highways in Delaware County. But it's kind of tucked in between a couple. But it's also a college town, a very prestigious college town. Swarthmore College is one of the more elite colleges in the country and has a very active alumni and there's a lot of community involvement and just a really wonderful little place. But
exactly,
when you were opening that, I'm like, wow, anytime a business is open in that area, I'm like, ooh, hope they know what they're in store for, because it's a unique place.
It is, and everybody knows everybody.
Yes, absolutely,
everybody.
100%. Yes. So tell us about your menu inspiration, what you drew upon to create the current menu that you have, which is a seasonal menu.
Yeah. So we're going to do 4 menu changes every year, and then we'll always have some specials, especially when we get our hands on some really cool proteins, fish, produce. anything along those lines. So, the menu is really driven to give people that like fine dining experience without all the the bells and whistles that come with it, without the tweezers and taking 20 minutes to plate up the dish. And my background is innovation and trying to make really solid dishes that are approachable. So the whole goal of Village Vine will always be, we're always going to be able to, and I say this to everybody, I want Village Vine to be the restaurant you can come to on a Tuesday night and get a great burger, and you can come on a Saturday night and get a great filet mignon or pan-seared turbo. So the innovation, I really want people to know that the food is the highlight of Village Vine, and I like to think that I make the food that I like to eat, which I'm not a picky person by any stretch of the imagination, but everybody likes to be pampered. They like to get things, especially when you go out to a restaurant, that you can't make at home. If I can make something at home, I have no need to go to a restaurant. So, and anything you come and get at our restaurant, I like to think if you had the time, you might be able to, to try making it, but no matter what, it's still always going to be like, wow, that was awesome.
It's funny that you say that, because when I go to a restaurant, I will order based on, will I be too lazy to make this at home? Or,
Right.
like that's literally how I like base my ordering, like
Right.
on. And I always go after the specials first, because it's not always available. And I'm like, well, if I'm gonna tease myself, I'm gonna tease myself with the special, because
Right.
yeah. Now, we had spoke briefly about this prior to hopping on, but your business actually was the inaugural business in that town that took away the dry town aspect. You guys had the
Yeah.
first liquor license in Swarthmore. So being said, you had mentioned that you just started a whiskey program.
Yeah. So Village Vine, before was, the wine was always the passion of Jill and Lori. And you could tell, I mean, they had some incredible wines that, man, out of the 80 different bottles and labels that they had in the basement, I probably had heard of 10 of them. So it was like, you can tell that was really what the focus was. And then what I wanted to do was actually talk to a lot of people in Swarthmore. So I probably, I don't want to say interviewed, but I spoke to, a couple hundred people to say, like, what do you want? What's Village Vine to you? What are you looking for? What didn't you like? What did you like? And, I started kind of getting the idea that people wanted some more like specialty cocktails. And whiskey and bourbons came up in those conversations quite a bit. And I was like, man, how cool would it be to be not only a wine bar, but to have, some really cool whiskeys and bourbons and scotch that, you just can't get everywhere else. So we're slowly building that, those options. Now we have about 15 different labels, and eventually I want the whiskey and the wine to be the same amount. So this way you'll be able to pick just as many different labels of the wine as you will whiskey. And we're going to try to get some really hard to get stuff and some things that just nobody can get their hands on. And my main goal is to really try to bring in products and wines and whiskeys that people just cannot get.
Yeah. You hear that, Gene?
Well, I'm actually just thinking about how happy the alumni of the college are going to be when they come for events too, because they all stay, in the hotel there and
right.
things like that. But how happy they're going to be to have your location. Because one thing I know, and I've done many events for Swarthmore over the years, while it is a prestigious college, when Swarthmore throws a party, they throw a party.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. It's awesome, especially when they close down the street Oh my God. Because we have a wine expanded permit. So we're allowed to, with our liquor license, to sell wine to go. So you could be walking down the street and be able to buy a glass of wine just right at our front door and just take it around with you. And I mean, people come out for those events.
I could imagine.
It is like thousands of people just around. It's like, holy crap, where did everybody come from?
Wow. Now, given that we're, you know, kind of exiting the holiday season, and in the last couple of minutes that we have you on for, and entering into, you know, Galentine's and Valentine's, do you have any events planned?
We do. So we're going to have a 3-course menu for Valentine's Day. And then I'm actually working on something that I really want to be able to do on like a monthly basis, almost like a chef's table, where it's going to be the same day every single month. Excuse me. And it'll probably be something along the lines of the last Thursday of the month. It'll be, you know, a chef's signature dinner. It'll be a 4-course, high-end, white tablecloth, the whole 9 yards. Excuse me, my dog just realized that somebody pulled up in my driveway. So I'm working on, you know, those types of events as well. And we just got launched with DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, even though, you know, a lot of our food is a little bit more, you know, fine dining. A lot of it does travel really well, like our hot chicken sandwich and our burgers. And, you know, we do have, you know, sandwiches that are on the menu, like our short rib French dip is like, I can't make enough short rib to keep up with it. You know, so those options will be available on DoorDash too.
All right. Well, I look forward to that, and I look forward to the chef's tasting menu because that sounds phenomenal.
Yeah.
But for our listeners out there that are interested in also visiting you, where can they find you online and in person?
Oops, sorry, I thought there was somebody else. Yeah, so Village Vine is at 6 Park Ave in Swarthmore. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram. Our website is www.villagevineswarthmore.com. We have a pretty good social media presence. My wife is the one who is in charge of all social media because I am not that great with social media, as you know, I like to cook. So
That's fine.
she does all the social media stuff.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Food Farms and Chefs.
No, thanks for having me.
And we will be right back after this next break. Hi, and welcome back to Food Farms and Chefs. And I'm very honored to introduce somebody who is making waves in the ice cream field. And something that I absolutely have thought of, and I'm a little remiss that I didn't go on scene, because you are making such a big impact in the world with your franchises. But Melissa Tavas, who is the owner and founder of Tipsy Scoop, which is based in New York. Welcome to Food Farms and Chefs.
Thanks for having me. I should have sent you some ice cream. Shoot.
You know, it's funny because I've made ice cream from scratch. Obviously not on your level. It's like the easy version of it. But you have a family history of making ice cream. So I would, by leaps and bounds, I would be behind you. But you know, what's your family history? Because you're not the first to start a ice cream store of any some sort in your family. But you are the first to add liquor to it.
Yeah, for sure. So actually, back in the 1800s, my family brought over gelato from Italy to Scotland, Italy to Scotland, which was a very novel concept at the time. So they brought over some of the first gelato carts, and was always like fascinated by that family tradition of ice cream and gelato making. So I started making homemade ice cream, which I have to disagree. I think making homemade ice cream is very difficult, especially in a little Cuisinart ice cream maker. So I was actually struggling with my homemade ice cream and decided to add a small amount of alcohol to soften the ice cream, because some recipes call for that when your homemade ice cream is coming out kind of icy on the side and not that ice cream consistency that we know and love. So that's kind of how I initially came up with the Tipsy Scoop idea, but was really just a fun hobby in the beginning.
Gotcha. Now, I mean, you must be proud of your history, because I looked you up, and your I think it was your great grandfather. Not only did he continue to expand on it like you are right now, and I'll circle back to that, I swear. But he also was the president of the Ice Cream Alliance in Britain, which I'm like, I'm sure you have some of those recipes that kind of got passed down through the generations.
You know what? I wish I had some recipes. So my mother is very into genealogy, and that's kind of how we found all of this stuff out. She's either very into genealogy or very into having an excuse to have to go to Italy to research her family, but either one. She says, "Oh, your great great grandfather was president of the Ice Cream Alliance in Great Britain," and I'm like, "Is that even a thing? Like, what does that mean?" And of course, there's a picture to prove it, and some great, really old photos, black and white photos of these really cool gelato carts as well. So there's proof, but unfortunately, we don't have the recipes. So
Oh, that's so sad, but it's all right, because you are obviously, making a name for yourself. You've been quoted or highlighted, I'll say, in Forbes. You've, gained the attention of the James Beard Foundation, which is a huge deal in the culinary world. You've been on TV, and people kind of amassed your concept, because you started, I think, out with the same concept of a push cart almost in pop-up events, and you've grown yourself from that to a brick and mortar location to now you're franchising. So I have to applaud you for your innovativeness and in perseverance in this.
thank you. It's funny because a lot of people are like, "That was my idea," and I'm like, "No, I know it's a great idea." And really, we have a cookbook now. Anybody can make boozy ice cream. I think the biggest hurdles for us were legal and figuring out, how do we define this category of liquor infused food, because that really hadn't been done before. I remember the first time we got into Whole Foods, I was so excited. And the buyer there calls me and is like, "I need to take this off the shelf. I don't know. How am I going to card people? How are they going to know it's boozy? All that." So we were able to figure it out. So it scanned like a beer or wine, but there's definitely been a lot of ups and downs along the way with a completely new category of food.
I can imagine. And Gene, okay, so Gene, one of the things that he has a huge history about is he's a chef. And he taught people how to create things, obviously, in the kitchen. And, he's also a huge fan of a local ice cream place. And I'll just let him take it away. Oh, unless if he's on pause. But he loves Penn State ice cream.
Okay.
And he's learned, different aspects of ice cream making from them, orders that online and has it shipped to him, which I know you do as well. And one of his favorite things is mint chocolate chip. So I actually sidebarred to prompt him, because he gets excited about mint chocolate chip. You have a spiked mint chip.
So that's so funny that he is so excited about it. So I will say that is one of our most polarizing flavors. Personally, mint and chocolate is not for me. It's one of the only flavors of our ice cream that I'm like, no, thank you. Hate mint and chocolate combined, but people love it. If you do not have that, the one mint chocolate chip lover who comes in will hate you forever. But the spiked mint chip is an interesting flavor because it's spiked with creme de menthe. So, as you know, creme de menthe is just a mint liqueur. Um, it is very subtle in alcohol taste, though
Mhm.
all the flavors are up to 5% alcohol by volume. So people are like, there's no alcohol in this. I can't taste it, but it's really in there. It sneaks up on you.
Probably.
Um, yep,
So,
yep.
out of curiosity, because I feel like you sell them in pints, correct?
Pints at the stores or the barlers. We do scoops, we do sundaes, we do flights, which are probably the most popular option. I like to say that we invented flights because now I see all these flights on TikTok all day, and I'm like, we were doing this in 2017. But the flights are really popular, so kind of a take on what you'd get at a distillery or brewery, but in this case, boozy ice cream and sorbet.
So, do you have a limitation, like because they are boozy ice creams, do you have a limitation on how many scoops that somebody can order?
That's so funny. We don't actually, but one of the, biggest questions we get is how much do you need to eat to feel tipsy? That really depends on not only your drinking tolerance, but your ice cream tolerance. How much ice cream can you eat before you start to feel maybe a little sick? It's easier to eat probably more of the sorbet, but it is up to 5%. So once you have, a couple scoops, you'll definitely start to feel it. But that's a good idea. Maybe we do need to put a max quantity that can be consumed in the stores.
Yeah, only because if it is that like the ABV for them are that, high, um you'd think like, okay, well, if somebody consumes X, Y, and Z amount of ice cream, like what are their like what's their alcohol intake at this point? But
Yep.
I
And it's
do.
funny with boozy ice cream or sorbet, the the same rules of kind of like mixing alcohols don't seem to apply, or people kind of put those to the sideline, and they're kind of trying a bunch of different flavors. So
Obviously.
yeah.
Now okay, so you actually have several different flavors. Sorry, I keep walking away from my mic or leaning away from my mic. You have several different flavors, one of which is, I mean, I don't know how you came up with this, but the oysters and champagne?
Okay, so it does not actually have oysters in it. I kind of wanted it to have oysters in it. If you look back on the history of oyster ice cream, it was one of the first recipes like ever. Um, Lots of recipes that were kind of like savory desserts were coming out at the time, like tomato aspic, and which is a tomato jello mold, and that's oyster ice cream, which is basically like frozen chowder, oyster chowder. So it was savory. Anyway, everybody from my production team was like, no way, we're not putting oysters in the ice cream. Like, my director of ops is allergic to shellfish. So he was like, are you trying to kill me? So we couldn't do the oysters in the ice cream. So we decided to do a sorbet that pairs with oysters, which was
Okay.
probably a better idea. So the sorbet is a lemon based sorbet that's infused with champagne and then a pineapple mignonette. So it's a little bit savory with the mignonette, which is obviously made with shallots and vinegar and all that. But it pairs really, really well with oysters. We had some really fun events where there was like live shucking and then scooping of the sorbet right on top of the oyster. So it works really well, similar to like a granita. You get that like cold, little scoop
Aspect.
on top of the oyster, and really, really fun and kind of playful. We like to do something crazy around New Year's too. So
I mean, it sounds fun and it sounds like it would, like you said, like the way that you would present it, it sounds like it would play very well, especially with the flavor profile that's in contained in it. But I'm gonna go back to our you know constant, like I'm a huge fan of bourbon. You have a vanilla bourbon ice cream. Um, Tell us a little bit about that. And the tequila hot chocolate.
Yeah, the vanilla bean bourbon is probably the most popular pint flavor year round. Vanilla bean bourbon, so it goes really well with any sort of dessert, pie, pastry, anything like that. Really, one of our classic flavors and one of our first flavors we came up with, where you can really taste that bourbon flavor coming through and then really get an appreciation for just how our ice cream is made. It's milk, cream, sugar ice cream, no eggs. It's around 16% butterfat, which puts it in a premium ice cream category. Similar to Haagen-Dazs, you have that like rich custardy consistency. And one thing that people say I never talk about enough is that the ice cream is actually really good and really like made with premium, whole ingredients, which is something I don't not mean to talk about, but everybody wants to talk about, the alcohol and the different cocktails that we're inspired by. So I do like the vanilla bean bourbon because I think it's a great representation of like, this is also just really good quality ice cream.
So I'm guessing because I don't have a sample of it. I'm guessing
I
that
know. Why didn't we do
I
this? We should have thought this through.
it's all right. It's all right. I could always, in retrospect, I can always order a case because you ship nationwide. Let's mention that too.
Yes, we'll have to send you some.
But I'm sure that when I crack open that pint, it's gonna have those little speckles from the vanilla bean pods,
Yep,
which is
exactly.
yeah, which is proof in the pudding, basically, of you are using the high quality ingredients. And I
Yep,
so
you can't call it vanilla bean if there's not beans in there. So,
Oh, that aspect I didn't know. And like I know
yep.
you said 16% butter fat. Now I don't know, this is where Gene would help. But I'm sure you know it. There's a percentage that you can go up to before they're like, no, you can't sell it anymore. Um,
Yeah, I believe that's like 18%. So, for reference, like soft serve is around 10% butterfat. So it's fairly low. It's a lot of air. And then like most ice creams, like hard ice creams, sit around like 12 to 14. And then when you want that like rich custardy consistency, and obviously you spend more money for an ice cream that's around 16%, we also chose to do that because we want the alcohol as an addition infused into the ice cream, and we didn't want to jeopardize that like creamy ice cream consistency. So we wanted the balance of like holding an alcohol content with maintaining creamy ice creamness.
yeah, because I love a good ice cream that's nice and creamy and rich, and you bite it, and you don't so much bite into it, you kinda, like, pull it off the spoon where it
Yep,
just kinda melts in your mouth, and you get that, like, not to overuse the word, that creamy consistency that just kind of makes you go, "Mm," and smile. Um,
definitely.
yeah. So I want to mention again the fact that you ship nationwide, because you are located currently, like your flagship is in New York, and I know you've opened up a couple of other locations. You are franchising, so um not that I want to take over the whole interview. So what was it like to open your business up to franchising, and how has the reception been, and are we looking forward to some ribbon cuttings?
Yeah, hopefully lots of ribbon cuttings coming soon. We decided to franchise really after years of being asked, is this a franchise? How can I open my own Tipsy Scoop? Having even some of our wholesale accounts want to, open a Tipsy Scoop as well. So it was really an opportunity that came to us. Initially, I associated franchising with like McDonald's and things that were really like traditional and not like cool. So I was like, this isn't a franchise. This is like this, innovative, cool business that's new and exciting. Another reason I decided to franchise is just from opening a store an hour from my other stores. I realized how difficult it was to open company owned stores further away, just how different flavor preferences are even an hour away. So really wanted to like lean on our customers to our experts in the areas that they live in, and also are passionate about Tipsy Scoop and want to open their own Tipsy Scoop. So we have, I believe, 6 franchisees signed on so far, and we have our first one opening in DC, hopefully in about a month from now. So that is very exciting, and we can't wait to see everybody else probably open all at the same time this summer. So that will be a lot of fun.
It'll be a busy season for you for sure.
Yep.
So, we're running a little bit low on time, so why
Yeah.
don't we also plug the actual ability to ship to your house?
Yes, so we work with Goldbelly. We've been working with them really since they started too. When I first sent them samples, I sent them samples in Tupperware, like Chinese takeout containers. And their founder, Joe, was like, Melissa, I love the ice cream, but you need to work on your packaging. So we've really been with them since our beginning and since their beginning. If you don't know about Goldbelly, they ship everything from like tuna from Hawaii, really anything you could want. But we ship nationwide with them, all 50 states. Ice cream shipped overnight in dry ice. You can use promo code Stay Tipsy for 15% off. We do the ice cream pints. We have single serve packaging. We do ice cream cakes on there, which are really fun for a birthday. So if you can't make it into one of the parlors, shipping, it's a really fun gift to get Boozy ice cream for a gift. So
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about it because as I said, it's an idea that I had, and I was like, "Ah," but you were the first, I think. So, good props to you for, not only coming up with this idea, but making a successful business out of it, and your franchises, your cookbook, and your association with Gold Belly.
yeah, thank you. And we welcome your flavor ideas. So, we might have to name a flavor after you if you have a really good one.
Oh, I come up with idea. There used to be, they unfortunately uh had to close their shop down, but they have new owners. But I used to give ideas to a local ice cream shop all the time.
That's awesome. I'm
So
sure they loved that. It's
yeah,
hard to come up with new ideas every year. So
yeah,
why not?
they've definitely used my ideas. So that, yay. But I that being said, I would love to like sit down and collaborate with you.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
All right. On that note, thank you for joining us on Food Farms and Chefs.
Thank you for having me. I really have to send you ice cream. I feel bad. We were talking about it for half an hour without you having any. So,
No, no, you're fine. But thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to more of your franchises opening.
yeah, for sure.
All right. And everyone, stay tuned every single week for a brand new episode of Food Farms and Chefs. We love having you listen, and we appreciate everyone who is a fan of us.